What is up, guys? Raziel here, and today, this is the first time you've seen my ugly mug, but that's not what this video is about. Today I want to go into some of the big changes coming in for Final Fantasy 4.3, what we know is coming, and some recent news that, well, not so recent, came out about 6 days ago in a translated interview. So we're going to cover what was gone over there and pretty much get pumped for patch 4.3.
I am Raziel.
So, welcome. Like I was saying at the beginning, there's quite a bit of hype surrounding patch 4.3 for Final Fantasy XIV. It's supposed to be one of the larger patches in the expansion, kind of the midway point of the expansion, if you will. It's got a lot of things that I'm really looking forward to. We are getting hints of the introduction of the next deep dungeon, which was the primary leveling tool in Final Fantasy XIV ever since it came out during Heavensward. It's a fantastic way to level up alternative jobs without having to do fate grinds or any of that other shit. But something I'm really looking forward to is the continuation of the Ivalice storyline. The 24-man raid, the next iteration of the 24-man raid, will be coming to Final Fantasy XIV in this patch, we all know. And if you haven't figured it out yet by watching all my other videos, I am a complete Final Fantasy Tactics fanatic. So I'm really looking forward to the continuation of that story. If you haven't got the raid yet and you have played Final Fantasy Final Fantasy Tactics, get ready because it's going to blow your mind. But we also know that there are some pretty big buffs coming for Dark Knight, and Samurai, which is desperately needed, as both of those classes are falling a bit behind in their respective roles. And unlike, World of Warcraft and Blizzard, I have a lot more faith in the balance team of Final Fantasy XIV and Square Enix. Yeah, they've made some mistakes, they've fucked up. I'm going to call them out when they do. But for the most part, they've achieved a pretty good balance in this game. There's not a single class in this game right now that can't do all the content, that isn't viable. The meta is designed and working around the absolute best performers, and I think these changes to Samurai and Dark Knight, can't wait to get more details on what they actually are. And my next video is actually going to be about what needs to be fixed in the Dark Knight, but that'll be later. I'm really hoping they bring things up to a more appropriate level. However, in this video, I want to talk about a leaked, translation, if you will, of Final Fantasy XIV's lead director, Yoshida, and he reveals quite a few things that caught my eye. So let's get right into it. Now, the first thing I find really interesting about this interview is how Yoshida continually talks about experimental ideas, things that he wants to try out on the community, because as you know, unlike other MMOs, Final Fantasy XIV doesn't have like an alpha or a PTR before each patch. They test everything internally, which is both good and bad. I think the good far outweighs the bad in that it's kept a secret and it kept a little bit of a surprise for us when it does come along. And lets us, keep that sense of discovery and exploration in an MMO, which, these days with data mining and all the other shit that goes on, is not a common feature in an MMO. But in his first question here, he asked him, the big topics were what's interesting. How do you deal with making things interesting and new? And Yoshida said he wants readers to interpret this in a positive way. But content like Diadem, which is in Final Fantasy XI, and Eureka is an experimental chamber involving trial and error. So there's a lot of trial and error involved in how Eureka came to be what it is right now. And I have no doubt that, a lot of the community doesn't like Eureka, and then a good handful of it does, and then there's some that are completely indifferent to it. It's just a means to an end as far as the relic weapon is concerned. But the Eureka is technically just a trial and error, and we're a part of that. And I think I'm very positive that as things progress in patch 4.3 and beyond, we'll see some massive changes to the way Eureka works. And speaking of Eureka, he does start talking about the next iteration of Eureka. As you can see here, the name of what the next Eureka area is going to be is blocked out, but he says we will have new gameplay elements such as hunt-specific monsters, which I think is really, really cool. A different method to improve the basic gameplay and leveling process, which it's kind of funny how, and on the NA servers anyway, and imagine on all the other servers, how the typical just grind mobs to level up disappeared very quickly and went to the notorious monster train, which sped up the process dramatically, made it far more bearable. But the simple fact that we had to find something like that showed that the initial design wasn't that great. So if we add these type of features from the get-go, it would turn into the usual Final Fantasy XIV. So they want to border it to where it's not just the exact same as being anywhere else in the game. They want Eureka to be unique, what you do there to be unique, how you get the rewards to be unique to anywhere else in the game, and they want to get on track with that. So it'd be interesting to see in 4.3 what they do, because the next relic step and the next Eureka zone will be available in patch 4.3. And then he goes on to say that regarding the game at level 5, is developing to celebrate their 20th anniversary to be an online game statement. Hino said he accidentally blurted that out, but he wasn't supposed to. Although nothing is confirmed or official, he wishes to have various sessions with Yoshida in the future and eventually develop a game in that direction. Now, what is he talking about here? He's talking about a new experimental type of game that perhaps may be in the future of Square Enix development line. When Hino and Yoshida have dinner, they're always discussing new ideas, new things to do, and new games to make. So it seems to be like the trial and error process and the pool we've been thrown into with Eureka is not just experimentation for what works in Final Fantasy XIV, but it's also going to work in their upcoming titles. Again, back to Eureka. They say they're trying new things out with the Forbidden Land of Eureka, and even outside of Eureka, they have other plans for trial and error type new content that is already under development. So this is stuff that's under the hood. It's already being worked on. Some of it's probably already completed. It's in testing. But they can't talk about it in specifics right now. But in the future, there'll be announcements about what they're doing in the world outside of Eureka for trial and error. Now, what I interpret that to be is new ways to make the game interesting. A common complaint I see on Square Enix forums, on the Reddit forums, are that, after Heaven's Word and A Realm Reborn, that Stormblood, while the story's unique and they added a lot of new cool things, the general structure of Endgame and structure of things is still the same. And they're working to correct that, to improve on that, and to take some risks, which I really, really hope they do. Endgame in Final Fantasy XIV right now is great, but it could be a lot better. And I'm really glad that Yoshida recognizes that, and that things are being done right now to improve that going forward, and maybe 4.3 will have some more information about that, or even some of those things. This next thing they talk about really, really, really gets me excited. When he talks about future plans include a powered up version of current content. Now, we do know we've already got the Ultima versions of some of the older raids, which I think is great for, cutting edge content, but I would love to see things like upscale difficulty 4-man dungeons, upscale difficulty, a little more upscale difficulty on normal, some tweaks for some players getting into raiding, between the normal difficulty, which in my opinion is easy, and the savage and extreme content, which is definitely requires more of a set static raid group and a lot more time, a lot more bashing your head against the wall. So I want to know what you guys think. What kind of empowered older content or current content that's powered up, what does that mean to you? What would you like to see improve to give you more to do at endgame? And also they've talked about brand new content, and this is what really, really gets me excited, where he says, what? You were hiding something like this the whole time? That's amazing. I mean, I can't think of an MMO that's done a tease like that in a long time, where they say they have something really big, really great, really exciting new content for the current game that they haven't had a single leak or slip about it in the entire development process up to this point, and I'm hoping we're going to see the beginning of that in patch 4.3. Really exciting stuff. Some other interesting things, because a lot of people have been talking about, you know, when is Square Enix's next MMO going to be? The one that, because Final Fantasy XIV replaced 11, what's going to be the MMO that replaces Final Fantasy XIV? And he flat out says, no, we're not working on anything like that right now. It would be insane to be working on another MMO on top of this. I imagine it was insane enough rebuilding 11 from the ground up while still supporting 1.0, which they did do. So I'm sure he doesn't want to get involved in something like that again. And he says, if we're aiming to win in this current huge MMO market, there's no point in making 2 MMOs. We prefer to do everything in one MMO. So I think I agree. In fact, I think we're far more likely if their next MMO does come out that's brand new, fully fleshed out, it's going to be probably like something like Final Fantasy XIV 2, like he says here. He said he built a new PC. He sincerely hopes for a Final Fantasy XIV sequel. He's looking forward to the next Final Fantasy XIV expansion, which we all know is under development already and is going to be announced by the end of the year. By November, it'll be announced, much the way Stormblood was. And he says, yeah, we need a whole nother me. Yoshida says, we need a whole nother version of me to be working on Final Fantasy XIV 2 right now. I think he recognizes that Final Fantasy XIV's success is because of him. I mean, he has a great team, but a lot of the team members that made 14 are the same ones that made 14 1.0. He just put them in the right direction and put their talents to good use. Anyway, guys, what do you think about this information? What are you looking forward to most in 4.3? 4.3 is going to be a pretty hefty patch. I'm really excited, and realistically, it's only like 6-7 weeks tops away from being out. I'd say first or second week of May, so we're not that far out, a month and a week maybe. So what are your thoughts, ideas about what he said? What comes to your mind when he talks about some of this secret stuff? I really want to know. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Be sure to follow me on Shitbird, Twitter. Fucking hate Twitter, but it's a necessary evil these days. Follow me on Twitter, Twitch. I now have a set streaming schedule set up. You can find it here on the About section on my YouTube channel. You can also find it on my Twitch channel. Both of the links are also here on my YouTube for that. Also, tell me what you would like to see me stream. I will stream with you guys. You know, we can do tank queues on a reset day, things like that. You know, knock out your Sigma, Delta escapes, what have you. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to what's to come. And as always, guys, keep it fucking real.